This is our next area. It's adjoining to the orchard. Our defining species here essentially was the butternut squash, which is juggalo. It produces juggalo. So we wanted to, this was the play area. So we chose all your classic weeds that you're all probably familiar with. We used chickweed and violets, which will produce food and greens in the early spring. And then we have white clover and dandelions and plantain. All of them work really well because they have different types of root systems, so they don't compete with each other. At the same time, many of them are dynamic accumulators. So, and grow very well. This is, I'm imagining a lot of people running around here, this area is going to get highly compacted. And this was a path around here, so we decided to define the path by planting edibles along the path that are again juggalo tolerant. So we planted daylilies and chicory and burdock.
So, any questions from the audience? Comments? Yeah.
Yes?
I don't know what a dynamic accumulator.
Oh, sorry. You got caught up with our terminology. These are plants that collect nutrients from the soil and from different levels of the soil and bring it out.
So when they die back in the fall, those minerals go back in the soil and the plants that they grow around, like the apple, for example, take in those nutrients. So it's a way to fertilize your plants without any work.
Without the dynamic accumulator, a lot of the nutrients would continue to move down through the soil profile and may be lost to the
I
land.
kind of got the gist of what I wanted to have a conversation.
Thanks for asking.
Clarify.
Sure.
Michael? No. Are you asking a question?
Yes.
At what scale are the aperture gills that you're looking at? How far out does it go from the trunk of the tree? So how many trees do you fit in a given space with that gill system?
So on this drawing, this line presents the edge of the canopy. And this is about a 20-foot span.
So that's canopy full grown apple tree.
Actually, no, it's a canopy as it is right now. Yeah.
But you have stuff outside the canopy too. Why?
Yes, yeah, we have stuff outside the canopy, and then there's kind of like time and paper constraints where this is kind of the idea that this would be one of the nuclei that merge. So we'd plant these little happy tree islands and then kind of plant between them as they grow up and establish themselves.
So, how many apple trees are there then? In the,
Right now, there are at least 5, and lots of room for more.
in 20, within 20 feet, wow.
But yeah, the spacing of them depends on the soil and also the other things.
So the spacing between each tree, how much space is there between trees in that?
That picture is just one tree.
Oh, this one.
That is just one tree.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, on this chart, this is just one tree, and here's the trunk, and here are the representations to scale of how big these plants would get underneath.
Would you do the same thing by every tree?
Yeah.
So what was put under there was comfrey and strawberry and
Concrete, strawberries, golden saxifrage, ramps, dandelions, thyme, asparagus, yarrow, chamomile, prostrate, bird's feet, trefoil.
Is there like a way to know, like if you have different kinds of trees, like say you might have a pear tree, or say you might have an oak tree, or say you might have an almond tree? Are there material that you can get so you know what you should plant around?
There's a great book called
The one that
Gardening Like a Forest by Dave Jacke.
Edible forest.
Edible, yes.
So that's where you would find that kind of information?
Yes. In fact, that's where we got most of our information. Yes.
So the dynamic accumulators, do they have to be cut down or composted?
They don't have to be. They can be moved. If you have a lot in one area, you can use them to mulch another area, but you can just let them die back and they'll do the same thing.
And many dynamic accumulators are things that you utilize, or then they die and just automatically go back to the soil. Like the key one is shiitake mushrooms, which are grown on logs that are decomposing. So the log itself is decomposing, you can harvest the mushrooms to eat them, and if you don't go out and harvest them, they'll die and nourish the soil. So the work is being done for you, rather than you having to, like you say, move them, or bring in bags of nitrogen or other, vitamins and minerals and things that you think the soil needs.
There's a question in the back?
Yeah, could you paint a bigger picture of spacing? Where did the sacks go in where did it come in? Are these all rings or are they kind of muddled together in some areas? And the strawberry one.
You're welcome to come and look at this in detail. The scale is down here, a 1/2 inch equals a foot. So we try to look at how big the plants might grow. Some of them are different sizes because some are 6 to 24 inches. The spacing. This is what we kind of recommend. And then, as almost all gardening goes, you put it in, you pay attention to it, you see what's happy, and then you adjust as needed. So this isn't a put this in the ground, it's going to be great kind of thing. It's a try it out. See that good?
One more important fact here is that you're seeing the whole season on one piece of paper here.
Yes.
So some of these come up in the spring and disappear. So it looks actually much more complicated than it is, and you would only be seeing some of these plants at one time in the season.
Do you need to amend the soil before you do the planting?
It's a good idea, depending on the conditions of the soil.
It depends on the soil. In many cases, hopefully this will take care of a lot of things for you. Some of these plants will address compaction, others will address mineral deficiencies. So it depends.
Most of these plants that we're talking about actually all of them are perennials. So the idea is to establish the system and then just let it maintain itself. So it's very, very low maintenance. You're not coming out here and clipping things and planting and weeding. These ground covers are shaded areas, and they're meant to help suppress the weeds. So you actually plant very densely, and you have to make sure that you have it throughout the entire year, providing all the functions you're looking for, fertilizing, dynamic accumulators, nectaries, etc., and also maintaining the ground cover.
And then some of these you can eat, so it's a bonus. They're serving the apple, and you can use them as crops.
Could you describe the cycle for ramps, planting, coming up, harvesting, what times, how it would look?
My knowledge of ramps, you see, is they grow natural in my area of southeast Ohio, so I don't plant anything. I come out in the spring and they're there and saying, please eat me, so on. They're a
Spring ephemeral.
spring ephemeral, thank you.
So you harvest what percentage?
Usually I have many more than I can use.
I'll be honest, I have never grown ramps. I would like to after researching them, but
So about planting, the apple tree doesn't have any ramps under it right now.
Correct.
So I'm describing when would you plant them, and
these are questions that we need to look up in a book.
I can answer that for you. The seed are very easy to propagate. You can start them from seed. It's best to start the seed in the spring, because that's when they usually sprout. You can buy the seed from various sources. It's not readily available, but in terms of being widespread, but that you can find online places to buy it pretty easily. Or you can throw the seed out in the fall, and some will get eaten by stuff over the winter, but they're used to that. And then it takes a few years to get a stand established. I try to not harvest too much the first 2 or 3 years, and then I'm still establishing my patch, so I usually only harvest. It comes up with 2 donkey ear-shaped leaves each spring, and I just harvest 1 leaf per plant. And then because I'm trying to let them build the population, build the bulb. So if I cut 2 leaves or pull the whole plant out, then I'll start reducing my stand size rather than letting it grow. So I usually cut 1 leaf per plant, and then it dies back to the ground about a month after it leaves out, and then it flowers a few weeks later, and then the flowers fade and the seeds mature. They're maturing right around now, actually. They're going to be mature in another week or two, probably, at least where I live. And then they'll just start propagating themselves after a little while. And they like moist soils, moist, rich woods, under trees. Maple trees are their favorite, at least in New England. So
Thank you, Dave.
So you eat the leaves, not the,
the bulbs or the leaves you
Bulbs
can
or
eat.
the leaves.
Yep.
okay.
They're natural in the wooded area where I live, so, you know, there's plenty. So I can harvest the whole thing, or as Dave's saying, you know, in a certain area where it may be rather scarce, take just one leaf, as I said, rather than the bulb. And I tend to go out then when it's flowering and sort of encourage the seed to spread.
That's about all we have time for.
Is that time, did you say time that you put?
Yes.
Can you walk on time? Because I know we had time we couldn't walk it on. I mean, if you walked on it, you destroyed it.
Some are more hardy than others.
And there are some different types of times also. So you can have some that are really low growing and they're pretty cushiony, like the elfin and the woody time. So you may not be able to eat them, they're not so strongly flavored, but they will serve the purpose of attracting insects that are beneficial.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.